Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea's top nuclear envoy is on an unannounced visit to the United States as tensions rise with North Korea. It's not known exactly whom he's going to meet with. President Trump decides to extend America's sanctions on North Korea for another year. The order says the North poses an unusual and extraordinary threat to the U.S. And President Moon Jae-in says his administration's Digital New Deal will create lots of new jobs in IT, expanding the digital sector by giving the private sector controlled access to public data. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. With North Korea sharply raising tensions, the South Korean Foreign Ministry's Special Representative for Security Affairs, Lee Do-hoon, arrived in Washington on Wednesday. Little is known about his trip, which comes less than 48 hours after North Korea blew up the Inter-Korean Liaison Office. No details on who he'll be meeting with or exactly what the agenda is, but it's highly likely he'll sit down with his American counterpart, Stephen Biegun, as well as U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien. The Blue House says Lee's trip was previously scheduled and has nothing to do with his role as a special envoy. This is the first time that Lee and U.S. officials have held face-to-face talks since the outbreak of COVID-19. U.S. President Donald Trump has extended America's sanctions on North Korea for another year. The notice of the extension describes North Korea as a major threat to the United States. Kim Jae-hee reports.
In a notice sent to the U.S. Congress on Wednesday, President Trump said he's continuing the national emergency with respect to North Korea. It was first declared on June 26, 2008 by Executive Order 13466 under the George W. Bush administration. It has further expanded in scope since then. As an extension needs to happen every year for it to remain in force, President Trump has made previous extensions before, the last happening on June 21st last year. With this year's extension, the order will remain in place until June 26, 2021, unless another extension is made. The latest notice said it's necessary to maintain certain restrictions on North Korea as the risks of weapons-usable fissile material on the Korean peninsula and the actions and policies of the regime, such as the pursuit of nuclear and missile programs, continue to pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to the U.S. Although the term unusual and extraordinary threat has been used in previous notices, including by the Obama administration, analysts suggest a restatement of the term amid recent provocations by the North may imply a warning to Pyongyang. Watchers also say the extension of sanctions reflects the U.S. stance that there will be no sanctions relief unless significant progress is made by the North. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's personal jet has been spotted heading towards the East Coast near Sinpo shipyard, where it's expected that the North will soon unveil a 3,000-ton ballistic missile submarine. Online flight tracker Flight Radar 24 shows the Air Koryo plane identified as an Antonov 148 flying in the direction of the city of Hamhung after taking off on Wednesday from Pyongyang at 10 a.m. local time. It's unclear whether Kim was on board or where the plane landed, since its radar signal disappeared when it was over Hamgyeongnam-do province. President Moon Jae-in today likened his Digital New Deal initiative to one of the Roosevelt administration's public projects during the Great Depression, the Hoover Dam, in that it aims to create jobs for people in a digital economy. He was at a local IT company that provides cloud services, his first on-site visit in connection with the Digital New Deal initiative. Here's the president.
우리가 하고자 하는 디지털 뉴딜은 앞으로 디지털 경제의 기반이 되는 데이터 활용을 최대한 활성화하기 위한 이른바 데이터 댐을 만드는 것입니다. 이 데이터를 수집하고 이것을 표준화하고 이것을 또 가공 결합하고 하는 과정들은 전부 사람들의 작업에 의해서 이루어져야 되는 것이기 때문에 또 그 과정에서도 많은 일자리들이 생겨나게 되는 것입니다.
President Moon said that if the digital New Deal succeeds, then South Korea will be able to take the lead in the digital economy. To that end, he stressed that firms will be able to access data created in the public and private sectors, while at the same time preventing infringements of privacy. Moon also said that the government needs to make sure that those at risk of losing their jobs are able to shift into industries where new jobs are created. The government will announce a comprehensive plan next month. The Asian Development Bank has once again slashed its forecast for South Korea's economic growth this year by more than 2 percentage points. In its latest report released Thursday, the ADB is calling for growth of -1%. The ADB had cut its outlook already back in April from 2.3 to 1.3. But next year, the report says the Korean economy will grow by 3.5%. The ADB also forecasts that the economies of Asia overall will grow this year by just 0.1%, the slowest pace in 59 years. Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Kim Se-won, professor of economics at Ewha Women's University. Professor Kim, thank you for coming on today.
Good afternoon, Devin.
Well, stocks on Wall Street were mixed overnight. Investors both hoping for a fast economic recovery, but also worried about a second wave of the pandemic. What's the story in the global markets?
Right. Starting from the end of last week, U.S. market has positive daily returns over 4 straight days until Tuesday of this week. And this boom of the market has been driven by expectations on very close economic recovery. But on Wednesday, for growing concerns on second pandemic, U.S. market ended with mixed returns between Dow Jones and NASDAQ. Dow Jones decreased by 0.65% on daily basis, but NASDAQ increased by 0.15%. And Asian markets had negative returns today, mostly due to increasing coronavirus infection in Beijing and also intensifying U.S.-China conflicts for the last few days.
Now, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell, testifying to Congress on Wednesday, said that the economic support for America's workers and businesses should not end too soon, or it could jeopardize the recovery. What do you make of his comment?
In a testimony to Congress on Tuesday, Fed Chairman Powell warned that U.S. faces a deep downturn with significant uncertainty about the timing and strength of recovery. And at the end of testimony, he really emphasized the role of expansionary fiscal policy along with expansionary monetary policy. He said that recent small improvements could be jeopardized if Congress weakens support to workers displaced and business hit by a pandemic.
Now, it was another up and down session in the Korean markets today, starting out sharply lower, but recovering some of that. The KOSDAQ actually posted a gain. Tell us about the Korean markets today.
North Korea's geopolitical factor was, of course, negative impact on domestic market. But on the other hand, we can see that positive factor of economic recovery is coming out slowly. So today's domestic market is mixed between a positive return in KOSDAQ but negative return in KOSPI. KOSPI ended with negative 0.35% on daily basis, but KOSDAQ had positive 0.26 return for today.
Now, oil prices have been declining this week amid a bigger than expected increase in supply. Tell us about that and your outlook for oil.
Oil price increased for 2 days until Tuesday as economic recovery is more expected and oil production has been cut recently by oil-producing countries. But as U.S. oil reserve piles up to the highest level in history, international oil price dropped by almost 1%, which is a big drop in a single day in both of the Western Texas Intermediate and Brent markets. I believe that international oil price will be more volatile over geopolitical factors and oil-producing countries' attitudes on oil production.
Now, a release from the International Institute for Management Development in Switzerland ranks countries in terms of global competitiveness, and we now see that Korea rose in the rankings by the most in 20 years. It's now 23rd place, up from 28th. How much do you think its response to the pandemic figured into that ranking, Korea's response, that is, and what else stands out to you here?
It was a very rare good news in the middle of coronavirus pandemic recession situation in Korea. Korea rose 5 notches to 23rd place in global competitiveness ranking by a Switzerland Business School's annual report. So according to that report, Korea has strength in low rate of long-term unemployment, digital transformation, and research and development. But they are pointing out that Korea still needs improvements in tariffs and corporate both effectiveness and relocations, threat of business, and so on. So I believe that if we maintain our effective responses on COVID-19, our international competitiveness will be improving in the near future further.
Got it. All right, Professor Kim, thanks so much for sharing your insights today. We always appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Now, from today, people in South Korea can buy up to 10 protective face masks a week under the government's revised mask rationing system. This is up from the previous limit of 3 a week for adults and 5 for kids. So people who have bought only 3 masks so far this week can buy another 7 before the end of the week. Identification checks will stay in place, however, to prevent hoarding. South Korea reported 59 new cases of COVID-19 on Thursday. The first time in 6 days, there have been more than 50 new cases. Most of them were in Seoul and the surrounding area. There was 1 new death, raising the death toll to 280. Meanwhile, for people heading to the beach this summer, the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasure Headquarters says it's going to introduce a reservation system so that people can keep a safe distance from each other. Now, in some countries, most famously the United States, a COVID-19 diagnosis and inpatient treatment can mean a huge bill from the hospital. But for people getting tested and treated in South Korea, money is not an issue. Our Kim Da-mi explains.
About $4,000. That's how much it costs medical institutions in South Korea to treat each COVID-19 patient. For those with severe symptoms, it can cost almost $11,000. Despite such expenses, COVID-19 medical fees haven't been a burden for Koreans because the national health insurance covers 80% of the costs and the central government takes care of the rest.
I had to quit my job after getting infected, so it was even more stressful. But I didn't need to worry about the direct financial costs. I was able to focus on getting treated, and I think that's why I was able to recover quickly.
Plus, there's easy access to public hospitals. When the number of COVID-19 cases skyrocketed in the city of Daegu, public hospitals treated 3/4 of the patients.
It's national health insurance that takes care of all citizens and their health records. So this helps treat patients in a transparent way, like determining what other symptoms they may have and what medicines they take.
Not all countries were prepared for a pandemic. In the United States, 8.5% of the population has no insurance. That's almost 28 million people. Some Americans actually avoid medical care even when it's serious because they have to pay high costs out of pocket. And even before the pandemic, the U.S. had fewer doctors and hospital beds per capita than most other developed countries.
Doctors and nurses in the U.S. have been laid off since February because hospitals were struggling to survive. The biggest problem is that the U.S. medical system is commercialized and is run for private benefit.
Countries like Taiwan and Germany have also successfully tamed the virus using their own unique public healthcare systems. South Korea merged its state insurance funds into a single nationwide insurer in 2000. 20 years later, the National Health Insurance Service is playing a key role in containing the pandemic in a way that's affordable. 김다미, Arirang News.
South Korea's flagship air carriers are extending the expiration date for airline miles belonging to people who couldn't use them because of the pandemic. Korean Air and Asiana Airlines will extend their validity by a year after having discussed the matter with the Transport Ministry. That means those whose mileage points would have expired at the end of this year can use them until the end of next year. For both airlines, miles issued are valid for 10 years. And that brings us to the end of this newscast. Thank you for watching. More live news coming your way at 7 p.m. Korea time.